Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Brooks. I am the Senior Manager of Chapter Partnerships and Engagement on the Chapters team. I'm going to be speaking all about the Chapter Network. So before I get into what we do, I want to kind of high level give you an overview of how we function as a Chapters team. We are a small but mighty team of 5 folks, and we service the Chapter Network through 2 verticals. So we have our Director of Chapters, Jason Allen, who oversees strategy, but on my side of the vertical, which is me and Ivy Henson, who is our manager of chapter mobilization, we connect, unify, and amplify the voices of our youth and young adults. So we're doing a lot of mobilization work. We're connecting students to our students and our young adults to really cool opportunities out in the world. If it's a podcast opportunity, if it's an interview panel, if it's an in-person event, we're connecting those folks. We're getting chapters involved. That's the work that you see all over our social of our chapters out in the wild doing the work. That's the kind of lens that Ivy and I work under. And then we have our other amazing team members, Janie Egan and Mia Zaleski. They oversee onboarding, education, training, and resources for the chapter network. So they are the folks that are going to be your first touch point if you start a chapter at your campus communities. They're getting you registered, they're onboarding you, they're dishing out all these incredible resources, they're having office hours, they are really getting your chapter off the ground and making sure you're successful in doing so. All right, so what are chapters? I've put a couple of bullets up on the slide here that really just goes over our mission and impact, but in overview, we are a powerful network of over 500 student-led groups across the country. And these groups typically look like clubs or organizations in a school community. We are in high schools and in colleges. And these are peer-led, student-led groups who are doing the work of educational programming in their campus communities. They are changing policies. They are really a robust force of youth and young adults who are advising and supporting the efforts of mental health awareness in their campus communities. They are also doing things like increasing awareness around mental health. They are doing panel discussions, movie screenings. They're promoting services that already exist in their school communities. They're doing it all. So really just wanted to kind of pinpoint here that they are educating, advocating, raising awareness, normalizing and destigmatizing the conversation, fostering community through peer-to-peer conversation, and then they're also advocating for policy change in their campus communities. It's really important to recognize that our chapters are representing the student voice in their campus communities. We know that peer-to-peer approach is the best approach. Students rather come to each other to talk about mental health concerns rather than seeking out an administrator. So we believe in that, and we know our students and our youth and young adults have the ability to lead those areas in their campus communities. So our reach in numbers, wanted to give you some facts here, some quick stats. We, like I said, have over 500 student-led college and high school chapters across the US and Canada. And that is our official chapters that are active in school communities across the country. So that 500 number, that's what we're speaking to, like functioning active chapters at school communities who are doing the work. We have over 7,800 volunteers, student leaders changing the conversation around mental health. This number is reflective of the students who are actually like an e-board member on their chapters or within their chapters. So they serve in leadership roles like president, vice president, secretary, media consultant person. These students are taking on leadership opportunities within the chapter to do the work. And then over 400,000 youth and young adults have been reached through chapter activities. This number is basically gathered from people who attend chapter activities. So whether it's an event, whether it's a movie screening, whether it's a collaboration with another organization at school, these numbers are reflective of people who actually attended those events. And then lastly, 4 million youth and young adults have been impacted by Active Minds chapter presence in school communities. This number is reflective of the people who exist in the current school communities that chapter already is active. So our chapters in action, I really just wanted to put some photos up on the screen here because I'm all about visuals. I wanted you to see happy faces. Our chapters thrive in their communities when they're leading this work. They have a really fun time doing it, but they take on all of the resources and programs that we offer here at the national level, and they implement it into their school communities. So whether it's a partnership through MTV, or where we have developed this new Ask tool, or it's a partnership through Myriad, where we're hosting Stress Less Week events on campuses. Students are actually just like taking all the education from us, all the resources from us, and then pushing it out into their campus community. So they're fully supported to do so on their campus communities, and we are guiding them through all of that incredible work. Our chapter activities. So I did go over this a little bit already, but our chapters are doing things like holding meetings, right? So they are an actual club, and it is their responsibility to host meetings, create agendas, plan to do things, right? Like this is a mobilization effort. We are encouraging them to act on mental health change and awareness in their communities. So we expect that they are planning to make change happen in those communities. So they're holding meetings, they're creating social media campaigns. Our chapters are all over Instagram. I think that is their preferred social media platform, but you can look up our chapters on Instagram at any point and see the work that they're doing. They're brilliant at showcasing their events and their meetings. They're bringing programs to campus, like I just spoke to. They're bringing our Ask initiative to campus. They're bringing Stress Less Week to campus. SSP they'll bring to campus if they can afford it. If they have the funds to do so, they'll bring that to campus as well. And then they're doing policy advocacy efforts. We have a lot of chapters who are advocating for new ID policies, or pauses in the middle of a schedule, just to promote self-care and mental health awareness. So they're really doing incredible work around changing the current structures in their school communities. So this year, this academic year, we have found that our chapters reported over 9,500 activities, and that includes everything that I have named here: holding meetings, social media campaigns, and bringing programs to campus. So how do you start a chapter in your campus community? It's super simple. It's literally only 3 steps. So you can recruit 3 students, and these are 3 passionate student leaders who want to lead this chapter. You don't want to just find random students that are just like looking for something to do. We need students who are passionate about the work, are going to thrive in this element, and then push the work forward. So recruit 3 students. You need to recruit 1 advisor. So this is 1 faculty or staff member who can support the students in leading this work. And then you need to obtain documentation that your school has signed off on this chapter existing. And that could be a screenshot, it could be a letter, anything that is formal proof that your school approves of the chapter. And then you'll just register with the national office. So that is us. We have a registration form on our webpage that you will submit once you get all those things. So you won't submit that form until you have your 3 students ready, your 1 advisor, and your documentation of proof. Once you have those things, you can get up and running. You will be connected to our onboarding, education, and training team, who will get you everything you need to get going. We have resources to start you out on how to recruit members, how to table, how to start policy change. We have it all. So we fully equip the chapter after registration to get going.
My name is Tyrell Jeffries. I am the Director of K-12 Initiatives at Active Minds. Our team is responsible for leading Active Minds programming in K-12 schools. And as an organization, it's a really exciting time for our team. You just heard from our amazing colleague, DeHaven, also lifting up Shayna and Jimena, who are program associates on our team, and we could not do this work without them. So again, it's an exciting time for our team as we've been growing our K-12 network and really expanding our reach. Before I discuss some of our K-12 initiatives specifically for high school, we have to understand why it's important and why these programs are urgent in schools. The mental health of youth, particularly in K-12 schools, have been in crisis for years, well before the COVID-19 pandemic put a spotlight on things. The pandemic has brought more attention to mental health issues. the rise in persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness, especially among LGBT and multicultural students, cannot be overlooked. Recent data from 2023 shows that 42% of high school students report feeling persistently sad or hopeless, with rates higher among marginalized groups. Our schools have been on the front line of witnessing the rise in mental health challenges, and it's clear that we need to act swiftly to provide support for our students, our schools, and our communities. While our youth and young adults are facing serious poor mental health outcomes, it's important that we unpack some of the social determinants of health and protective factors that impact this data. Social determinants of health are any condition that really affect mental health. So when we think about some of those determinants, it includes housing, discrimination, structural conflict, including gun violence. Our youth continue to experience gun violence in and out of schools at extremely high rates. And when it comes to education, school and institution connectedness plays an important role in supporting our youth and young adults. Among high school students, 61% felt close to people in their school, and 86% report that a parent or other adult family member typically know where they are. This data proves that when youth and young adults have positive connections and relationships with people in their schools, in their community, that the support system, their families, their friends, their peers, they are less likely to engage in risky behavior and experience poor mental health outcomes. Together, we can really address the social determinants of health as we capitalize on protective factors to support positive health outcomes for our youth and our young adults. So Active Minds is determined to do this work. We are focusing on equipping young adults to lead mental health change in their schools and their communities through a number of free and low-cost programs, one being our Mental Health Advocacy Academy. So our Mental Health Advocacy Academy is an opportunity for BIPOC and LGBTQ plus youth. It provides tools, resources, and knowledge for students to create a campaign or action plan that they implement within their school and their community to bring awareness in mental health change to the mental health issue that they deem appropriate for the setting that they're going back to. This is a paid virtual experience for students. Our current academy is actually happening right now. Our final session is happening next Tuesday, and our students will be presenting their advocacy action campaigns and then going on to implement them within their schools and their communities. Applications for the next academy will open in spring of 2025. We know not every student is able to participate in programs like the Mental Health Academy, so we launched our Your Voice is Your Power Resource Hub. The Resource Hub has resources to support youth and young adults as they grow as mental health advocates for themselves, for their peers, in their schools, and the communities in which they live and serve. There are standalone resources, podcasts, workshops, webinars, and we are continuing to build upon the resources within the hub and really focusing on increasing the digital and media resources that we have, as we know that's how we reach youth and young adult today. Almost all of the resources are created with insight and input from youth and young adults within our network. In addition to our Mental Health Advocacy Academy and our Your Voice is Your Power Hub, our Peer Power Mental Health Curriculum for high schools is a free curriculum that aligns with CASEL and SEL standards. It is an awesome tool for Tier 1 and Tier 2 MTSS interventions within schools. The curriculum is provided to all high schools. It's available to all high schools and provided to all high school, new high school chapters, and can be implemented as a chapter program guide, as well as implemented in a variety of different settings within the school structure, such as opening to a J period, such as use in a small group or an additional club that is meeting MTSS structures. Schools can facilitate the curriculum without having a chapter or being a part of our chapter network based on the needs of your school and your students. There's no real set structure or flow for selecting the discussions guide that make up the curriculum. We recommend with starting with the first lesson, which is around we all have mental health, really is a basic guide and level sets the discussions that you are able to have with your students from throughout the rest of the curriculum. Every school and community is unique with different strengths, concerns, challenges, things that are happening in the moment. You know your students and you know your schools. So we really recommend that you review all of the discussion guides and all the lessons in advance and really tailor the scope and sequence to your students and to the setting in which you are implementing the curriculum. So each discussion guide will come with recommended group norms. There will be a clear focus area, or what we call the heart of the lesson. You have clear learning objectives. You have the opening activity for engagement. You have the core content, and then you have discussion questions that really lead students being able to open up and really reflect on their own experiences given the topic at hand. And then every lesson comes with a how to take action section, which really is supporting students on how to implement the discussion that was just had, as well as how to be an advocate and use this in the sphere in which they have in terms of their peers and within their home. Some of the lessons include we all have mental health, you are not alone, when it's more than a bad day, understanding a mental health crisis, the power of being positive, staying mentally healthy, here for you, helping a friend. One of the things that we are really, really keen on is making sure that the curriculum stays relevant and it's adaptive. So we're always looking for insights from schools and students who are implementing our curriculum. As a result, one of the lessons that we wrote as schools became virtual was connecting in a virtual world. All the lessons and all the discussion guides come with an adult and a youth guide facilitator. We really empower youth to lead these conversations. As a result, the adult is in the room to make sure that the discussion stays on topic. And you got to have that trusted adult there within the school setting. But you get to hear authentically from students in the moment, and that is very powerful. It allows school professionals to really hear from students, implement change right away based on the authenticity that students are sharing.
So my name is DeHaven. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the manager of all things middle school here at Active Minds. So first off, just really want to thank you all for being here and taking this evening to hang out with us. So with the middle school program, it is called We Are Active Minds Middle School. It's a free and stipend curriculum and program to help youth increase their knowledge, skills, but yes, like increase those things. But also I think a really important part is to build community, to help them learn how to support one another, advocate for themselves and their friends, but even more importantly, I think turn to the trusted adults when they need help and just have a good time and play weird games. So the curriculum is 12 lessons that weave together mental health literacy, social emotional learning, positive youth development, and advocacy. So we really tried to create a comprehensive curriculum that can help them in all aspects of their lives. Right now, we're piloting the middle school program across Minnesota, North Carolina, and Florida. And we really work with you and your site to create a community responsive curriculum. So it's really honoring the culture and community of you and your students. So with the 12 lessons, they're divided into two sections, self and community. We're really trying to help middle schoolers explore these key developmental questions of who am I and how do I relate to others. Each lesson, it's intended to be adapted for time because no school schedule is the same. So roughly every lesson is intended to be 35 to 50 minutes, but it can be stretched or lengthened as needed. Each lesson is intended to be co-facilitated between an adult facilitator and a youth leader. So true to Active Minds, always trying to center that youth voice and help them feel empowered to make change in their communities. So with the adult facilitator, you do not have to be a mental health professional. That was very intentional. And you just need to be a caring youth champion who wants to help their middle schoolers be their full selves and have a good time. So with our current adult facilitators, it's really ranged from, we have PE teachers, math teachers, school counselors, social workers, and even just last week we onboarded a principal. So it's a very wide range of folks who are implementing the program. And right now we're seeing the lessons being implemented during a scheduled class time, after school, during a study hall, or an already existing club, or even better, you can create your own We Are Active Minds club. So the lessons and topics. So every lesson follows the exact same formula, very much plug and play, to try to make it as easy as possible to facilitate. There's always going to be a very, very clear procedure on how to implement the lesson, but we always want you to be authentic and not feel like you're reading for a script. So always put your own spin on it and make it come to life for both you and your students. This curriculum is definitely not like we're sitting and lecturing. Lots of movement, group work, games, really trying to make the topics come to life. So it's a highly, highly engaging curriculum for your middle schoolers to be middle schoolers, right? Like, let them be kids. Some of the topics range from identifying emotions and thoughts, how to communicate them, coping skills, exploring the different levels of advocacy, and then really starting to dive into how do I identify a crisis and help with my friends when they're in a crisis and turn to a trusted adult. So when you decide to implement and sign up for this program, you will get ongoing support from myself and Shayna, who is my right hand on everything. So what you'll get is ongoing onboarding, coaching, technical assistance. We're always trying to help schools make this process as easy as possible and as impactful as possible. So we're always going to work with you with ongoing check-ins, newsletters, and just really trying to make sure you're getting everything that you need. All of the lesson materials are digital, so it should be very easy to access. And we're always trying to build up this library of ongoing resources, supplemental lessons, and different things for us to all just continue to learn and grow.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marky Pasternak, and I'm the Senior Manager of Higher Education. I have the honor of starting us off today here at the open house to tell you about our specific higher education programs. So what are the goals of Active Minds higher education programs? We'll start there. Well, we have three. First, we want to help make Active Minds programs accessible and relevant to diverse types of colleges and universities. When we think about Active Minds, we think about where Active Minds started at the University of Pennsylvania. But we've grown so much over the past 20, 21 years. And therefore, we have to think about what our programs look like on different types of campuses that cater to different student populations. Therefore, part of my work and our work in higher education is thinking about what do our programs look like at community colleges and how can we tailor them to make them more accessible and successful in that environment? What are the needs of HBCUs when it comes to innovative mental health solutions with students? And how can Active Minds be a part of that? Our second goal would be developing college students into strong, passionate mental health advocates for their campuses. I'm excited to tell you about a new program today, actually, that does just that. And third, we want to share programs with students and staff across various college departments within institutions and external organizations in higher education. And we do that through partnerships with a variety of different organizations that are present in higher education, from Greek life to professional organizations and beyond. So first, I'll talk about our guides. Under that first goal, we talked about what does it look like to make sure that Active Minds can be tailored to different types of higher education institutions. Here are two great examples. We have two guides that are accessible online, lessons from Black colleges on mental health and well-being and sustaining an Active Minds chapter at your community college. Lessons from Black colleges on mental well-being was published in 2022 and 2023. Well, it was done in 2022, published in 2023. And contains 8 or 9 recommendations that we got through research, talking to professionals and students at Black colleges and HBCUs on what works well for mental health on their campus and the innovative things that they are doing to advance mental health and wellness. And we call it lessons from Black colleges because it's important to note that really these institutions are very innovative when it comes to building community and tackling things like isolation and loneliness because they're very person-centered. And so other types of institutions have a lot to learn from HBCUs, and you can do that through this guide. The next is going to be our Sustaining an Active Minds chapter at your community college, which was published in 2023 in the fall. And we actually looked at different community colleges that were really successful in our chapter network and hacked into the 5 keys that made different community colleges successful in their advocacy efforts. We found that these colleges are great at mobilizing a diverse array of students, that they're really great about being flexible and accommodating different schedules. And we go into these 5 keys in detail on how you can do them in this guide. This is a new program, and I'm really excited to share it with you. It's called the Mental Health Advocacy Institute. This is a paid mental health advocacy leadership program specifically for college students. This program equips college students with the knowledges and skills and just connections that they need in order to make a mental health advocacy action plan for their campus that is actually tailored to their specific school. It is a 6-month-long program. We start off with 5 weeks of once-a-week training, in addition to a kickoff session where they hear from experts from around the country. They work with Active Minds staff, and they really develop this action plan. And then for the rest of the program, they receive technical assistance while they're trying to actually implement their advocacy action plan. Students can do things through this program, like trying to get mental health days available for students on their campus. They can do things like trying to make a mental health task force if their campus doesn't have one. They can try to put new policies in place on their campus. They can help the counseling center update information on websites and make it more accessible to this generation. There are so many ideas that are coming from these students on how to help make mental health programs and services better on their campus. And so we are actually starting this program this weekend. We are starting with 95 students from across the country who will be piloting this new initiative this year. And finally, I'll talk to you about our partners. We have some great partners in higher education, and there's just a handful on this slide that we have worked with. You can see there's an array of partners from student organizations and Greek life organizations to national professional development organizations that house different professionals in different functional areas of student affairs. And Active Minds is really open to working with all of these organizations plus more on what these organizations need in terms of student mental health. And we like to get innovative with our partners, whether it's helping them write guides, do presentations, come to their conferences and provide mental health content. We've really done an array of things over the years for different partners to make sure that Active Minds and mental health information doesn't just stay in one place, that it's all over campus. And so if you're interested in being a partner of Active Minds in the higher education space, we would love to hear from you, and we'd love to get something started.
Hi, hello. My name is Jasmine Taylor. I am the sales manager for our Active Mind Speakers Bureau. Though I don't have them pictured here, I do want to spotlight our team. We do have Joy Shepard, who is our director of programs, as well as Simone Sparrow, who is our program associate, senior program associate to be exact, and part of our event team. But our Active Mind Speakers Bureau is as it is. As we create these safe spaces on campuses for youth and young adults, we do find power in sharing stories in order to destigmatize the conversation around mental health. Due to this, research shows that peer-to-peer outreach is the best way to reduce stigma that surrounds mental health. So overall, the power of sharing stories really does encourage those who are going through something or know of someone who is going through something regarding their mental health to reach out, and also to try to really minimize the shame around different mental health experiences. Our speakers do go out to a variety of areas and audiences, so K through 12, higher ed, workplaces, and just general community events such as conferences and just events for general nonprofits as well. And they all represent different backgrounds, cultural experiences, and also bring a variety of menu options to really meet everyone where they're at within that conversation around mental health, and present with something that aligns with what may be happening on campus, or depending on where we're starting within the conversation around mental health as well. So giving hope a voice, our professional speakers share their impactful stories to inspire, support, and create safe spaces. With this, we do want to make sure that we highlight the different speakers that pop up, have their conversations, as well as their personal stories shared, but also depending on the wide range. So as we said, they are in the K through 12 space. So for instance, we have K through 12 specific speakers that have catered their presentations to be appropriate for that specific audience. So keeping in mind that if they're presenting for someone who is in the higher ed space, that's going to be very different than the presentation that they do for middle school or high school, just because of that age range. And we want to make sure that, again, we're meeting them where they're at in that conversation. So if it's an introductory conversation, it's more of an introductory presentation. But if there are occurrences on campus, there are a selection of topics that can be requested as well, such as men and mental health, anxiety, depression, suicide, and BIPOC mental health, just to name a few. And each of the speakers has it listed of what they cover and what their main focuses are, as well as the different presentations they have with an overall description, so that as you're perusing through, you can see what will be the best fit for your event or your audience and community as well. So the offerings that we have for our speakers, we have a variety of spaces and also ways that you can have a speaker come out. But their presentations usually are about 60 minutes. So you're looking at 45 minutes of presentation to leave 15 minutes at least for Q&A, so that everyone can have time to really digest the story, but also ask questions. That's the really big basis of sharing stories in this way. It gives the space for those who may have just been introduced to these topics, or those who have the courage to ask questions, to inquire on how to best support either themselves or their loved ones. So we really like to make sure we have that space available for all those to ask those questions and truly connect with the speakers and get that valuable insight as well. Our speakers can do virtual or in-person engagements, and all the pricing is inclusive. So this is one of those programs where there is a fee attached, but the pricing is inclusive. So you're paying for your speaker, your travel and hotel accommodations, as well as our event team management and virtual tech assistance. If you do a virtual presentation, you have an option to either host on your own, or if you need our assistance, that is included as well. And we're more than happy to help as we navigate through that piece. Also included in that price are marketing kits. That's one of the main things when we're looking at event planning. How do we market? What do we do? And just kind of having stepping stones for that. In light of those pieces and elements that we know to be evidently true, we also have marketing kits for each of the speakers that will give you a basis of at least their headshot and bio, so that we can minimize the amount of work that's really put on you all to pop into any of your resources to try to create a whole flyer and hunting down all of these pieces. We at least want to make sure that you have the main pieces together so that you feel supported and going forward with the rest of your marketing. So when you're looking at bringing a speaker, there are a few best practices that we like to highlight. It's a pretty good process, but for those who are starting, say it's your first time bringing a speaker or hosting someone in this late, you always want to start with your goal. So looking at why you would like the speaker to come. Was there a particular occurrence on campus? Was there a request from students saying that they wanted to see more stories presented in your community that reflected either their cultural background and experiences or certain topics that they feel are important to them? Once you have your goals set, you can discuss and develop and just kind of go through that process to think, do you want that to be an in-person presentation or a virtual one? What dates and times? If you have a strict calendar, anything of that sort, particular dates and times that would really work best for you. I always say to pick at least 3 dates that would really work best in case our speakers are not available for 1 or 2 of your dates. That way we can make sure that the dates that you present really do align with what the speakers have available. And then we have adequate amount of time to actually plan, get everything together, and make sure that you have a successful event. Also, you have budgets and funding. So because this does cost, we do like to highlight if you have a budget, anything of that sort, we do like to know just kind of how we can best suggest a speaker that fits within your budget. Our speakers do have changing pricing depending on the speaker, but our virtual events start at $2,500 and our in-person start at $5,000. And that, again, depends on the specific speaker that you choose. And we always encourage when you're in this process, if you have anyone that should be part of that conversation, feel free to include them as well. The more the merrier, just to make sure that everyone gets the information that they need. And then if you have any questions or anything that we can help with, we're happy to do so. And we also have our funding from our program fund as well. That's able to really help, especially within K through 12 audiences. But we also have funding that is available for communities and nonprofits and the higher ed space as well. Last but not least, you can contact us. So once you have everything together, and even if you don't, if it's just a question of what next steps you may have, anything like that, feel free to check in with us. We're happy to work through that process with you and answer your questions. But we do like to start planning at least 8 to 12 weeks prior if you're able to. And we also have noted towards the bottom what our busy months are to keep in mind when booking. If you're going to be within a busy month, we do suggest the earlier the better, just because our speakers do book up pretty quickly. So we want to make sure we can get your dates in there as requested. And last but not least, we have our Active Minds Program Fund. So 72% of organizations that request professionally led resources last year were left out of the conversation. With that, we have our program fund that is available to aid with additional funding if needed. And I know when you hear like program fund, it's a lot, but I promise you it's a one-pager, maybe 5 minutes. And per usual, if you have any questions, feel free to check in and I'm happy to help where I can.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Krista Cantrell. I'm the Send Silence Packing Manager, SSP for short. I'm really excited to dig in with you all today and tell you a little bit more about this program that's been making a splash for over 15 years. So to dive into a little bit of the history and the philosophy of SSP, SSP is Active Minds' renowned story and resource sharing exhibit, traveling the country to spark conversation and inspire action for mental health. We're rooted in a dynamic 4-part format, which I'll dive into a little bit more in the coming slides. And it's an immersive experience that sets out to illustrate the stories and center the voices of youth and young adults, with the goal of ending the silence surrounding suicide and advocating for better mental health in our communities. Like has been mentioned earlier in the program, SSP is one of our legacy programs at Active Minds, and its inaugural event was held in 2008 on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. It's since reached over 400 communities across the country and connected with over 1 million visitors with resources and tools for skills and support. The exhibit over time has served as a mobilizing force to change the way we think, talk, and feel about mental health and how we show up for the people around us. So I want to give you a little introduction to our team. We are a small but mighty crowd. We have Eric Rockwood, who is our program associate, and TJ Fields, who is our program associate. They are the two guys that are out on the road. Each season, fall and spring, we take off from our headquarters in Washington, D.C. and go out and make those stops all across the country. Like I mentioned, we're a traveling exhibit, and so that means we come to you. And so they're the ones that are on the ground showing up during the big day and getting the equipment and the big program all up and running in your community. So they do a lot of really great work all across the country in many different months out of the year. And like I said, I am the manager of SSP, and my main focus is around outreach and around connecting with folks, interested people who want to bring SSP to their community, who have that need and want to get that scheduling and booking taken care of. Now to dig in a little bit to what we offer. So there are 4 different parts and 4 different pieces of the program. And our really goal is to make sure that we are servicing the need that's in your community and understanding where that comes from. And so it's a 4-part exhibit where the heart and soul of SSP really is around story and resource sharing. So the SSP Story Labyrinth is the first thing that you're going to walk into and see on the big day. And it's really the focal point, kind of the centerpiece of the exhibit. That's where you'll find 100 stories affixed to 100 backpacks, so kind of the visual behind the name of the program itself with Send Silence Packing. And it's laid out actually in a circular shape. And the reason for that is to encourage movement and reflection and engagement. And if you think about that, a labyrinth in that circular shape is actually rooted in resource to be a therapeutic tool. And so the model around that is just to encourage additional discussion and unity, and for folks to feel like they are centered in that space and can really, engage with the material. We also have our resource hub, which is our kind of one-stop shop for all of the materials. It's where the mental health professional is stationed. So should anybody be engaging with the exhibit and find that there might be an emotional distress or find that they might need a listening ear, that's where they would be going, is the resource hub. That's where we have like our ask materials as well, crisis information for 988, and peer-to-peer kind of support and engagement. And it's also where a lot of our volunteers are going to be stationed so that they can kind of connect with other community members and participants as they are passing through. So the next part of the exhibit is the Behind the Backpacks experience. Now, during COVID, when we were not able to go out on tour and visit people in person, there was that high need for mental health resources, but obviously to do it in this new virtual world that we were all living in. So that was kind of the impetus for Behind the Backpacks and where it all started. So it's an immersive experience, it's sensory oriented, and it's actually an opportunity for folks to hear and listen and see people's stories kind of unfolding in real time. You can actually go to our website right now and see all 12 of the stories that are laid out there, but you get kind of a snapshot of it at SSP at the event itself. And so we thought of doing this little pop-up theater and tent once we were back on tour to bring it to you. And so you can listen to 3 of the different stories there. You plop on some headphones, you sit down in our little tent, and there's a big projector and they kind of play on a loop throughout the day. So it's really a nice complementary piece to the Story Labyrinth itself, which are those physical stories that you read yourself, but then you can listen and hear people in real time. After the Behind the Backpacks experience, we offer our Hope Wall. And so that's kind of like the end of the exhibit, and it kind of rounds out the experience to end on a positive note and a note of reflection. And the idea is to kind of activate you to kind of apply your learning and think about what you would say to somebody who is struggling. So it's really encouraging you to make a contribution, to stop and pause before you leave and move on with your day. So now that you've kind of figured out what we are all about at SSP, a little bit about our history and our why, as well as the 4 main pieces of the exhibit and what it might look like. If you are interested in hosting, we would love to connect. And I would be the one to be connecting with you and meeting with you and getting to know your team and really collaborating. As you can see, it is kind of a big program. It's a full day-long event, and it is a lift. So it is a true collaboration working together with your team and with ours over the course of many months. So kind of the first piece is to talk to your community about your mental health needs. There might have been a precipitating event that might have happened on campus, a suicide on campus that has kind of initiated that need for additional services or for a program like Send Silence Packing. And we really encourage you to kind of do a pulse check on campus, have an open conversation with your community members and with the trusted professionals. Do your research on our website and really figure out if this is a good fit for your community. If you found that there's the true need and that there is kind of that runway that you all have and that capacity building on your team to plan an event like this, then we totally encourage you to get in touch with us. So you can submit an interest form and begin the booking process that way. We typically say between 4 and 6 months before your ideal event date, recognizing that we go on tour both in the fall semester and the spring semester. From there, we'll meet virtually and discuss a timeline for how to host and how to secure those funds and to confirm the booking. After you've been confirmed, the next step is really going all in on planning. So you'll want to plan and promote your event. And there's a series of tools and services that we give you all. So we want to make sure that you're really well prepared. There's a training for all volunteers and that you have kind of a needs assessment in place as well so that we can get a true understanding of your campus, get a true understanding of the services and the resources and the different types of programming that are available throughout the year so that we can see where we fit into the mix there. And then, of course, the big day. So you want to be able to provide your community with that support and then afterwards evaluate the impact at the end, identify what needs have been met, what gaps may have been filled, and to figure out how that impact has been made, how many students have been reached, and what your next steps are. We really want to be there for you from beginning to end, kind of like I said, that wraparound experience and ensure that you all feel supported before, during, and after SSP.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Elms, and I am the Senior Manager of Workforce Development here at Active Minds. In my role, I am responsible for our workforce development portfolio. The workforce development portfolio supports emerging and pivoting professionals, especially BIPOC and LGBTQ young professionals, to pursue mental health advocacy as a career. Mental health is a critical social justice issue for our youth. Therefore, our goal is to support the expanding mental health workforce across all industries. So within this scope of work, we have 2 programs, which is Emerging Scholars and Causing Career, and I will tell you a little bit more about them. Emerging Scholars is a fellowship that is for researchers and practitioners. The Emerging Scholars Fellowship is an opportunity for young adults with an interest in expanding literature and discourse through an anti-racism lens. The fellowship takes place over the course of 6 months with the opportunity to cultivate a peer network, connect with a national mentor, and disseminate content to college students. In 2025, we will have a cohort that consists of 14 scholars. Each scholar receives $1,000 to complete their research. Over the course of the program, the scholars have the opportunity to engage in scholar meetings to where they will build that network meeting one-on-one with each other and implementing projects and different researches within their communities. We are currently accepting applications for our 2025 cohort, so please scan the QR code for access to the application. For yourself, feel free to submit one or share with someone who you think will be a great candidate to participate in the fellowship. Cause and Career is a digital platform that is aimed to support emerging professionals as they transition into the workplace. We really understand that the transitional space of figuring out what's next can be one that is a challenge and comes with a lot of figuring out of what to do. Sometimes it can be very daunting of figuring out your next steps. Cause and Career was designed to be the supportive tool in making the transition into the workforce much smoother. So within that, we intentionally designed some notable features to help youth and young adults as they take those next steps into going into the career field. The first we have is an interactive tool, which is our quiz that really helps young adults figure out what types of career options are available that really pairs with the skills that you have and the passion. Sometimes we know that folks may have a passion for mental health, but that does not mean that they want to do those traditional roles. So this quiz is an opportunity for folks to figure out like which lane may best support them. In addition to that, we have a job board, which is an array of jobs and volunteer opportunities to support connecting young adults with finding those environments that supports mental health. Our next feature we have is a network of our career connectors who are professionals that tell their career stories, and many of them who are available to connect with job seekers as mentors. So feel free to, again, use the QR code to take a look at the website and then figure out if you want to read a story to help you understand what career paths may be available. And if you ever have a question, if the career connector has a little flag on it that says open to connect, they're open to meeting with or having a conversation to help you along the way. Many of the career connectors get very excited when someone reaches out to them because our job is here to close the gap in those transitional spaces. And last but not least, we have a suite of resources. So we have some for both in your career and as you are beginning your career, with having some supportive tools to help you be able to achieve your goals in an authentic way, but really advocating about mental health within your journey. Our latest or our newest feature is coming soon, which is a workbook to really help you as you are in those transitional spaces. I encourage everyone to check out Cause and Career if you're really in that space to be your go-to as you are really trying to think about your next steps in your career.
Hi, everyone. My name is Randy Moore, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the policy manager at Active Minds. So at Active Minds, we are very committed to mental health advocacy, particularly for youth, and we believe policy can transform mental health support in schools and communities. At the core of our efforts is this idea of youth-driven advocacy, and we're starting a new flagship program called the Trailblazers, which is a great example of how we want to engage young people in this work. So the mental health crisis among youth is reaching unprecedented levels. Over the past decade, mental health challenges in young people have surged dramatically. For example, 48% of young adults aged 18 to 25 reported mental health symptoms during the pandemic, including anxiety, depression, and stress. The CDC's 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey showed that nearly 1 in 5 students have considered suicide, with 40% reporting persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. So what are the drivers of this crisis? We can look at the rise of social media alongside, of course, academic pressures, bullying, and societal expectations. They have all contributed to escalating rates of anxiety and depression. And when we think about marginalized groups, LGBTQ youth and students of color are disproportionately affected, with LGBTQ youth being 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers. And so if this is left untreated, these mental health struggles can result in devastating outcomes, including academic failure, substance abuse, and in severe cases, suicide. These challenges highlight the urgency for better mental health supports in schools and colleges. So in terms of this critical gap, only 12% of schools report they can meet students' mental health needs. So schools are often the primary setting where young people seek mental health services, yet the vast majority are ill-equipped to provide adequate care. And so that basically adequate care, and in a 2021 survey, only 12% of U.S. schools indicated they had sufficient resources to meet the mental health needs of their students. This lack of resources includes a shortage of school counselors, social workers, and psychologists. The recommended counselor to student ratio is 1 to 250, but most schools have ratios closer to 1 to 500 or worse. The severe shortages leave many students without timely support. So there's a high demand and low capacity in terms of meeting the need. And this means that students face long wait times to access mental health services, leading to issues of being left untreated until they reach a crisis point. So some of the bills that we've supported that we really see as federal solutions are first, the Improving Mental Health and Wellness in Schools Act, which aims to improve school-based mental health services by providing more funding and requiring mental health promotion as a part of school wellness policies. And so that's more on our K-12 side of the house. And also, students from low-income families and marginalized communities face additional barriers. The challenges faced by students in accessing mental health services are often exacerbated by socioeconomic status, race, or where a person lives. Low-income students are up to 5 times more likely to experience persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness more than their more affluent peers. These students often attend schools with fewer resources, meaning they face higher barriers to receiving support. Black, Indigenous, and people of color youth specifically face significant barriers to accessing mental health care, including a lack of culturally competent counselors, stigma within communities, and fewer resources in schools serving predominantly BIPOC students. LGBTQ plus youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers, yet schools often lack the inclusive mental health supports that this group needs to feel safe and supported. So a solution for this, as mental health policies in general that are equity focused, ensuring that funding and resources are directed to schools and communities most in need. By increasing access to culturally relevant mental health services, schools can better support marginalized students. So timely mental health care interventions lead to better academic outcomes and further prevent crises. Early mental health interventions are critical for preventing crises such as suicide attempts, severe anxiety, or academic failure. Students who have access to timely mental health services are more likely to succeed academically, build stronger relationships, and develop resilience to stress. Delays in treatment often lead to worsening conditions, which students missing out on academic opportunities due to mental health challenges. Research shows that untreated mental health issues directly impact school attendance, academic performance, and social development. So in terms of immediate support, early interventions help identify and treat issues like anxiety and depression or trauma before they escalate. This reduces the likelihood of academic disintegration or behavioral problems. Students who receive mental health support are better prepared for post-graduation life, leading to improved career prospects and personal development. Policies that promote early screening, access to on-site counseling, and integrated mental health services can prevent crises and lead to better overall student outcomes. So here's two bills that we support. The first is one that's near and dear to our heart, came from an idea of a chapter in California, HR 2802, which would require colleges across the country to provide contact information for suicide resources on student IDs, including the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, crisis text line, and campus mental health centers, ensuring students have immediate access to the critical mental health resources. And then a little bit of the bill I was speaking about before, the Richard B. HR 3331, Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act, would enhance mental health promotion and education within schools, integrate mental health into school wellness policies, and increase funding for school-based mental health services. Proactive policies foster resilience and enhance academic performance and create supportive school cultures. So how can you make a difference? You can support mental health policies, advocate for stronger mental health policies at the local, state, and federal levels to ensure all students have access to the support they need. You can join our Active Minds advocacy with participating in initiatives like the upcoming Trailblazers program, where young leaders are trained to engage in policy change and make their voices heard. Champion school-based services. Push for increased funding for school-based mental health services and advocate for anti-bullying to create safer, more supportive environments for students.
All right, so I'm here to talk to you about community fundraising. I'm really excited to talk to you with you all today. Community fundraising and Active Minds has a lot of different values that we offer in terms of the ways you can get involved with our mission and the different ways you can support our mission. So one thing I really wanted to grab from Randy's presentation right before me is how fundraising and Active Minds is a form of advocacy. So we know that advocacy is an act of supporting a cause to create positive change. This includes raising awareness, informing the public about issues that matter to you, organizing and supporting events aligned with the mission, and gathering financial resources to support a cause like Active Minds and making sure our work is sustainable, that we can continue our reach and further our reach to different populations and communities that we might be able to better serve with our mission. So, one of the really, really wonderful, great things about fundraising and Active Minds is that it's a pretty open door for what you can do with us and with our support. So you can make fundraising mental health advocacy. And what we mean by that is we really love to center the individual who is a fundraiser as first and foremost a mental health advocate, because you are representing a network or community that might have never heard about our work before. And by creating a fundraiser, by sharing about it on your different social medias, text messages, emails with friends and family, word of mouth, group chats, what have yous, you are letting the people around you know that mental health matters to you and it is a cause that you want other people to support. What I think is really amazing about this work is what I just said, is that it reaches people who might have never heard about our mission before. What we know about Active Minds and our work is that the peer-to-peer conversation is a vital one. And the conversations that we have with each other show the support in the areas that matter to us. So by letting people know that mental health matters to you, you can signal to others that this is a cause worthy of championing and bringing support and attention to. So how is fundraising utilized? It helps our organization sustain our activities like expanding our outreach efforts, providing necessary resources, and introducing new supporters, advocates, and students and changemakers into our field. I know a lot of folks out there might represent youth and young adults who are looking to get into the advocacy programs. The more funding that we can have for these programs, the larger reach that we can have to bring other people into the fold as well. There's a lot of different ways to get involved with our fundraising. A couple of different ways that we really like to talk about are pledging your birthday. Everyone has a birthday, and something we know and that our founder, Allison Malman, always emphasizes is that birthdays are a wonderful time. It's not often that people like to be celebrated, but certainly during a birthday is one of those times where we can recognize you. And we are always honored when someone pledges their birthday and in lieu of presents, ask for donations towards Active Minds and creating positive change in the culture around mental health. You can join an endurance event. Active Minds has been working really diligently with our Team Active Minds program recently to be partnered with a couple marathon events, including previously the San Francisco Marathon and the Philly Bike Ride and DC Bike Ride. Upcoming, we have the Philadelphia Marathon, the Indianapolis Marathon. We're in conversation for the New York City Half Marathon, the Denver Marathon. There's a lot of different endurance races that we are looking forward to because we know the body and mind are paired and linked. So if you are seeing 5Ks in your community or something similar event that you might want to host, let us know and we can help you get one of those set up. Honoring a loved one is another amazing way to support Active Minds. We are always grateful to be honored with carrying a legacy forward and making change to a community or network in honor of someone's memory who may have been lost to suicide or other mental health factors. Even if they were not lost to those matters, it is still very, very special to us to honor those folks, help you support their memory with a fundraiser. And like I said before, there's a lot of open avenues for it, so you can do it your own way. I've heard some really great ideas, from car washes to bake sales to tabling efforts to wall of hearts to inspiration trees. There's a lot out there, free to no cost too. One of my commitments to my fundraisers is making sure you have the tools and success to never go into the red when you make a fundraiser, right? I want you to be have a rewarding and successful experience when you do this with us. And being a champion means standing up to say you believe in this mission, others can too. So no matter what your goals or your ambitions are, we are here to support you because we know that just by being present, you are going to make a difference for those around you. Now, a couple fundraisers that I would really love to highlight. First one being the Trevor K. Memorial Golf Tournament. This was created 4 years ago in Massachusetts from the Kononenko family who lost their son Trevor to suicide. They wanted to honor his legacy with a memorial golf tournament, and each year they gather in September to do so. They have friends and family play a couple rounds of golf. They have auctions for different items, and they sell tickets to a dinner that they host that night, all in his memory. It's a wonderful chance for them to connect about their memories for Trevor, how they're doing, check in with one another, and then also the ways that they want to give tools and resources back to another generation who might be struggling in the high school or college level. The participants are invited to register the event with a $20 registration dedicated to Active Minds. So that's another really great way that we can set up some of these events so that you are covering your costs, operating costs, and also being able to make a donation to Active Minds. And they called upon their community to really amplify this event and get other people invited and on board. Another one I really love to highlight is Miles for Mental Health. This takes place in March and is through a team called Suffer with Friends in Philadelphia. They started exercising together during lockdown in 2020 when they needed to kind of just get out of their house. And what they saw is that a lot of them were dealing with different mental health struggles and started open communication and relying on one another in a lot of different ways. So every March, they do a fundraiser called Miles for Mental Health, where they ask the people around them to dedicate a certain number of dollars to different exercises that they do. It might be $1 per mile that they run or walk or bike or something like that, or a total number at the end of the month to see how high they can reach. They've been really successful both in getting the word out as well as growing their small community of mental health advocates and champions who are also interested in exercise in their area, and they keep coming back every year to support us. We are really excited to have that constant support of individuals like this because it is technically outside of our demographic of 14 to 24-year-olds, but these are people that I often hear the sentiment of, I wish I had tools and resources back then that they have now, and wanting to make a change in the way things are talked about so the next generation can path an even brighter future for us.